Good morning, everyone. Today, we are going to do the revision module, the topic nutrition. So, nutrition is the process of obtaining food for the requirement of energy. There are different modes of nutrition. In plants, we can categorize the nutrition into three different types: autotrophic nutrition, heterotrophic nutrition, and symbiotic nutrition. In autotrophic nutrition means the organisms which can synthesize their own food, no need to depend on other organisms. Again, it is categorized into photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. Photoautotrophs means they can utilize the light. All the green plants will come under the category of photoautotrophs, which contain the chlorophyll. Then, apart from that, there are certain bacteria. They also contain specialized type of chlorophyll pigments, that is bacteriochlorophyll, green bacteria, that is photosynthetic bacteria, which can use bacteriochlorophyll. And there are, apart from that, there are other bacteria also which can synthesize their own food. And another group, it is chemoautotrophs. That means they can utilize the chemicals. There are different types: nitrogen fixing bacteria, where the nitrogen they are utilizing; iron bacteria, they are utilizing the iron; then sulfur bacteria, sulfur they are using. So if chemicals are the source of energy, if they are utilizing, then they are coming under the category of chemoautotrophs. Then the second category of plants, which are called as heterotrophs, that means the plants which need some other source also apart from the photosynthesis. Sometimes nitrogen, if they are growing in deficiency of nitrogen, in such case they will depend on flies and all, that is insect eating mode of this one. So they are actually phototrophs, but they are growing in deficiency of nitrogen and other minerals. In such case, in order to get that nitrogen, they are trapping the insects, and then their juice they will take. So protein they can derive from that source. That type of organisms are called as insectivorous. So Venus flytrap, sundew plant, all these will come under the category of insectivorous plants. Pitcher plant, that is another one. Then the third category, it is called as saprophytic. So mainly fungi will come under saprophytic organisms. That means they are living on dead and decaying organisms. Typical example, mushroom, agaricus, here I have written. That is coming under the category of saprophytic organisms. Then there is another category that is called as symbiotic organisms. That is lichens, we can say. Lichens means algae and fungal relationship. Algae will provide the food, and the fungi will help in absorbing the nutrients. So they are living together and they are deriving the food by themselves. Then it is called as symbiotic, living together. Algae and fungi living together, and they are leading a symbiotic relationship. When we move on to the animals, they are coming under the category of heterotrophs. They cannot synthesize their own food. They are coming under the category of heterotrophs. There are broadly, again, they can divide into holozoic mode of nutrition, saprozoic mode of nutrition, parasitic mode of nutrition. Holozoic mode of nutrition means the organisms which will engulf the food, and the digestion takes place inside the body. Typical example is amoeba. Amoeba will engulf the food in the form of with the help of pseudopodia, and there inside the body the digestion takes place, and undigested waste materials will be thrown out through the body surface. That is called as holozoic. Even human beings also holozoic only. We are taking the food with the help of hand into the mouth, and inside the body there is a separate digestive system. There the digestion will take place, and the needed nutrients will be absorbed into the body. And saprozoic means the bacteria and all, we can say, which are growing on the dead and decaying organisms, and other organisms, they can lead the type of nutrition. Then parasitic mode of nutrition, even in plants as well as in animals also, parasitic modes are there. That means they are growing inside or outside the body and deriving the food from the host. Then it is called as parasitic organism. Parasites can be broadly classified into ectoparasite and endoparasite. Ectoparasite means the organisms which are growing on the body. So typical example when we are saying that is ticks, mites, then head louse, etc. Leech also will come under the category of ectoparasites. They are living on other organisms. Then endoparasites means organisms which live inside and derive the food from the host. Then it is called as endoparasites. Typical examples, the ascaris, that is worm, we can say. Then Taenia solium, that is tapeworm, pinworm, hookworm, all these will come under the category of endoparasite. Even endamoeba also, endamoeba histolytica, it's a type of amoeba which is living inside the intestine, and that also will come under the category of endoparasite. Then again, in plants, when we are saying the plants also, there are certain type of parasitic plants, we can say. Either they can be total parasite or they can be partial parasite. Total parasite means they are not synthesizing their food fully, they are deriving the food from the host plant. So it can either inhabit in the stem or it can inhabit in the root. Stem, typical example, stem total parasite, typical example is Cuscuta. Golden vine, will say, yellow thread-like structure. It will twine around the host plant, and with the help of a root-like structures, they will absorb the nutrients from the host plant. So gradually the host plant will decrease their size and then they gradually disappear. Then root parasites also are there. Total root parasite, Orobange, will say, that also on the root of higher plants they will live and they will absorb the nutrients, etc. So naturally the plants, they will decrease their growth and their fruit and yield and all, they will decrease. The same way, partial parasites also there are there. That means certain amount of food they will produce and the remaining they will absorb it from the host plants. So it is stem parasite also is there, partial root parasite also is there. Stem parasite, it is Loranthus, Ithacani and all will say. Then viscum also, Loranthus viscum. So on the mango tree and all, you might have seen some plants which are growing with the purple color flowers, that is called as Loranthus, and another variety only viscum. So in Malayalam we will say Ithacani. So they are partial parasite. Their leaves are green in color. They can synthesize certain amount of amount of food, and the remaining they will absorb from the host plant. Then root also we can say root partial parasite, that is Santalum, sandalwood we can say. So all these are the different types of nutrition. Now we will move on to the photosynthesis, that means photoautotrophs, all the green plants which can synthesize their own food in the presence of light, that is called as photosynthesis. The equation is 6CO2 plus 12H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 6O2. And this photosynthesis lower classes you are learning, but more in detail we have to study here. The photosynthesis itself is broadly divided into light reaction and dark reaction. So light reaction means it is the first step of photosynthesis where the light is, the chlorophyll absorbs the light, and then it will be converted into intermediate products. Then in the absence of light, that in the night, that will be converted, and finally the starch will be stored or starch will be synthesized. So that is light reaction, means light dependent reaction. So the first half of the reaction, they require the presence of light. Then the second half of the reaction, they does not require the light, hence it is called as dark reaction. So it is again consists of four different, takes place in four different steps. That is very important. The first step is the absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. That means when the leaves are exposed to the sunlight, the leaf, underneath the leaf, there are two layers of, outer layer is called as epidermis, and inside that one there are parenchymatous cells are there. Generally we will call it as mesophyll cells, which contain chlorophyll. And this chlorophyll cells, when they are exposed to the chloroplast containing mesophyll cells, then this chloroplast cells will contain the pigment. That pigment is called as green coloring pigment. Then green coloring pigment is called as chlorophyll. So when this chlorophyll pigments are exposed to the sunlight, they can absorb the sunlight. So that is the first step, absorption of light energy by chlorophyll pigments. And as a result, the ions which is present in the electrons, they will emit certain the energy in the form of electrons. So that is second step. That means when the light is absorbed within the chlorophyll pigments, the electrons will be emitted. So excited, the electrons will get excited and they will emit, they will convert the light energy into chemical energy. So second step is first the absorption, photo excitation we can say. The second one, it is called as photo phosphorylation. That means the light which is trapped by the chlorophyll will be utilized for converting the light energy into chemical energy. That is in the form of ATP. In the form of ATP only they will be converted. And the third one, it is in the presence of light itself, again the water molecules, because water will be absorbed by the root, so that water molecules will split into hydrogen ions or protons we can say, and then oxygen. So this proton only will be, or this hydrogen only will be inserted between the carbon dioxide, CO2. So in between the C and O, the hydrogen will be introduced. As a result, the net result, that is a sequence of reaction, and that reaction results in C6H12O6. So in between the carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 water molecules, or we can say 12 protons, 12 hydrogen molecule will be getting inserted, and as a result the end product will become C6H12O6. So 6O2 will be converted in 6CO2 will be converted into C6H12O6. So the hydrogen, the reducing power should be introduced in between. As a result only the carbohydrate will be formed. So that is the fourth step, reduction of carbon dioxide into carbohydrate. So carbon dioxide in the presence of water, the carbon dioxide will be converted into carbohydrate. So these are the 4 steps. Photo excitation, first step, that means absorption of light energy by the chlorophyll. Second one, photophosphorylation. That means the light energy will be converted into chemical energy, that is in the form of ATP in the presence of sunlight. The third step is splitting of water. That is another term is photolysis of water. So water will split and then protons and oxygen will be released. That proton will be getting inserted, reduced into, or it will be inserted in between the carbon and oxygen, and as a result carbon dioxide will be converted into carbohydrate. That is called as photoreduction. So photo excitation, photophosphorylation, photolysis and photoreduction. Okay, so 4 steps together, we can call it as the entire process of photosynthesis. Now it is taking place in the green part of the plants, that is mesophyll layer, which contain chloroplast. Chloroplast contain the green coloring pigment chlorophyll. So here this is the diagrammatic representation of steps in photosynthesis, that is broadly classified into light reaction and dark reaction. So as a result of, in the presence of light, oxidation of chlorophyll, and in the presence of light the photolysis, and in the presence of light the reaction, phosphorylation, that is ATP production. Then once the carbon dioxide, all these steps are taken place in the presence of energy. The photophosphorylation means ATP will be produced. In the presence of ATP, carbon dioxide will be transported or converted into a sugar molecule, that is hexose sugar only. Then finally it will be resulted into glucose. Many glucose molecules combine together to form the starch. So the first 3 steps is light dependent reaction, and the last one, that is photoreduction, it is light is not essential, hence it is called as dark reaction. So the entire process we will call it as photosynthesis. Now we will move on to, so but in all the plants it is not the case. In desert plants where the availability of water is very less, in such cases they are, because the carbon dioxide has to be absorbed through the stomata. The plants, they require carbon dioxide and oxygen for the photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is utilized and oxygen is released out as the waste material. So here this gas exchange is taking place through the stomata. So along with that, when the stomata is open, one more process simultaneously will take, that is called as transpiration. Excess amount of water will be released out in the form of water vapor. That process is called as transpiration. So whenever the leaves are exposed, the stomata is open, excess amount of water also will be lost. But this cannot be managed by the desert plants, because desert plants, the availability of water is very less. So if they are performing excess amount of transpiration, that would be a waste. So how they are managed to perform their photosynthesis along with the minimum transpiration. So in such case, they are undergoing a different kind of pathway, that is called as CAM pathway, that is cross solution acid metabolic pathway. How they are doing it means, they will open the stomata during the night. Normally the other plants, they are opening the stomata the daytime and closing in the night time. But here in desert plants, just reverse. That is, they cannot lose much amount of water when the sunlight is very directly hitting on the plants. So that time what they will do, they will close their stomata. Daytime the stomata will be closed, and in the night time the stomata will be open. That is actually meant for reducing the transpiratory loss. So here in the night time, they will absorb the carbon dioxide. Okay, they will take up the carbon dioxide through the stomata. The carbon dioxide will enter into the cactus or other plants, and the carbon dioxide which is stored, which will be taken, will be converted into an intermediate product. So intermediate product mainly in the form of malic acid. Okay, keep it in your mind. The intermediate product is called as malic acid. So that will be stored. The carbon dioxide will be converted into a 4-carbon compound that is called as malic acid. Then the daytime, the stomata will be closed. This intermediate compound will be converted into starch. Okay, will be converted into starch in the daytime. So this is the alternative method. Why they are doing it in such a way means, that is to reduce the maximum amount of transpiration. So stomata will be closed during the daytime, and open during the night. So the evaporation will be less, because the intensity of the sunlight will be less. The temperature also will be reduced. So in that way, they can minimize the transpiratory loss. Now we'll move on to the next slide, that is the section of the leaf, where you can see the upper epidermis. Here and there the presence of stomata also can be seen. Through that only the the carbon dioxide will enter, and there the photosynthesis takes place, and the oxygen also will release out through the stomata. Then this is the structure of stomata. So stomata means the minute pores on the surface of the leaves, and more number of stomata in dicot plants on the lower surface, whereas in monocot plants, both upper surface and the lower surface, equal number of stomata will be there. And in dicot, it is the stomatal opening is guarded by 2 bean-shaped structures, cells. That cells are called as guard cells, which contain chlorophyll. And the guard cells only, when the water from the mesophyll cells will enter into this one, the guard cells will swell. So will get swollen, and then it will absorb, it will be bulged, and when it is bulging, the sidewise it will be open. That is, the inner walls of that one will be stretched out, and as a result the open stomata will get opened. So the widening of the opening. Then when that is in the daytime. Okay, in the night time, automatically the water will be withdrawn from the guard cells. So the stomata will come close together, and that will close the opening of the stomata. So in that way only, the entry of water from mesophyll cells to the stomata, the bulging of the stomata, so widening of the opening. When the water is withdrawn from that, then it will become flaccid, and then it will get closed, and in that way the regulation of the or entry of the gases will take place. At the same time, it will regulate the transpiration. And then based on the shape of the stomata, dicot stomata is bean shaped, and in monocot stomata, the guard cells, the shape is dumbbell shape. Okay, so the guard cells of the dicot, it is bean shape, and monocot, it is dumbbell shape. and more or less equal in number in monocot both the surfaces, whereas in dicot the stomata more number in the lower surface. That also is a technique to reduce the transpiration to the minimum. Now we'll move on to the next topic, that is in animals, that is in unicellular organisms, mainly the holozoic nutrition, that is in amoeba and all, engulfing the food with the help of pseudopodia. So this picture is very important. So the food particle, when the amoeba approaches a food particle with the help of finger-like structures, it will encircle, and food particle will be trapped inside. It will be converted into a food vacuole, and then it will enter into the cytoplasm, and within the food vacuole the digestive juices will be present that will break the food particles into simple soluble absorbable form. The needed nutrients will be absorbed back into the cytoplasm, and unwanted digestive material will be passed through the body surface. So here it is. In this way only the holozoic mode of nutrition. Of this diagram is very important. Each and every labeling also is very important. So here this is the flow chart. You can revise this, or you can copy down this flow chart. That is amoeba, pseudopodia, extension of cell membrane, capture the food, take it and it will be transferred or transported in the form of food vacuole. Then digestion of food in the vacuole takes place. The needed nutrients by the method of diffusion, it will be taken into the cytoplasm. Undigested one will be converted into vacuole, and that vacuole will move to the surface of the cell, where it is thrown out through the body surface. The same way, another organism, that is paramecium, we will call it as slipper animalcule. And there here it is pseudopodia is the locomotory organ, means here it is cilia. Minute hair-like structures are there, that is called as cilia. It will take the they have a particular spot in the side of the body, and through that they will take the food, and then it will be converted into food vacuole. There the digestion will take place, and the needed nutrients will be absorbed, and undigested material, again there is another spot that is called towards the one side of the body. Through that the waste materials will be thrown out. So paramecium also, there is a special organ, that is mouth or gullet we will say. Okay, on the side of the body there is an opening. Through that, along with the water, the food particles will enter, and it will be converted into food vacuole. There the digestion takes place, needed nutrients will be absorbed, and the unwanted digested material will be thrown out through a specific spot on the side of the body. Now we will move on to the next process, that is in human beings. Human beings also, the mode of nutrition, when we are saying, it is called as holozoic. We are taking the food with the help of hands and take it into the mouth. And the whole entire nutrition we can divide into 5 major steps. The main steps are ingestion, then digestion, then absorption, then assimilation, and the last step is called as egestion. The first process, ingestion. Ingestion means intake of food into the mouth. So with the help of hands we can take the food into the mouth, and within the mouth, in the presence of tongue, teeth and salivary glands, it will be mixed up with the saliva and all. It will be made into roll, and that roll, it is called as bolus. Bolus will pass through the mouth and then into the esophagus, then into the stomach. So that taking enough food with the help of hands into the mouth, that process is called as ingestion. And the second step is called as digestion. When the food reaches into the digestive tract, that is stomach, intestine, etc., there the breaking process will take place. That is, food particles are complex food particles with the help of enzymes. Enzymes means they are the chemicals which is produced by the body, within our body, and they can speed up the chemical reaction by breaking the bonds between the complex food materials. And as a result, it will be converted into simple, soluble, absorbable form. If we are saying there are 3 broadly major categories of food items: proteins, carbohydrates and fats. So proteins, with the help of enzymes, it will be converted into simple substance, that is called as amino acids. The carbohydrates will be converted into starch and will be converted into glucose. And the same way fats will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol. So that's simplifying the breaking of the complex food into simpler substances with the help of enzymes that process that step is called as digestion. So it is digestion is initially the digestion is taking place, 30% of the digestion takes place in the mouth itself, then it will go to the stomach, within the stomach also it will take place, then when it reaches the intestine, complete digestion will take place. So the third step is absorption, because the complete digestion is taking place within the intestine. The intestine itself is acting as the region where the maximum absorption of water, the digested food is taking place. Even though certain amount of food, water and other drugs and other things and all are taking place in the stomach, major amount of, or the majority of the amount of food which are digested completely is absorbed in the intestine. So intestine is the main area of absorption of food. Then assimilation. Assimilation means when it is converted into food particles, simple compounds, that is especially the carbohydrate, that is sugar, glucose. The glucose will be absorbed into the blood. Okay, so then this glucose, with the help of blood vascular system, it will be transported to different parts of the cells, and that cells, they will absorb the glucose. There within the cell, this glucose will be converted into energy, and as a result carbon dioxide will be eliminated. So the utilization of the food for the release of energy, that step is called as assimilation, or else we can say it is cellular respiration itself, breaking down of complex the glucose to release the energy. Then the last step, it is called as egestion. Egestion means it is the after the digestion, there are certain components which cannot be digested by our body. So that type of organic, the components, undigested waste materials can be thrown out through the anus. That process is called as assimilation, is called as egestion. Then we will move on to the digestive tract. You can see on the right side there is a figure. So it will start with mouth, and mouth will leads into buccal cavity, and it is guarded by teeth. Teeth helps in breaking the chewing the food into fine particles. Then it will be mixed with the saliva, and saliva is produced by the salivary and glands in and around the mouth, and saliva helps in moistening the food. At the same time, it contains lysozyme, so antibacterial effect will be there. Then it also helps in breaking of carbohydrate into disaccharides, that means mainly maltose. So initially, or little bit of carbohydrate digestion takes place in the mouth. Then it will be swallowed, or it will be passed on to the next region, that is pharynx. It's a common passage for the nasal cavity as well as the buccal cavity. Then from there it is passed on to the esophagus. And here the esophagus, it's a long tube. It is lined by smooth muscles. And footballers will pass through alternate contraction and relaxation through the entire region. It is more than 30 centimeter in length, and the alternate wavy movement can be observed. So that type of movement we can call it as peristalsis, the movement of footballers through the esophageal wall. Then finally it will reach into the next region, that is called as, which is J-shaped, highly muscular. That region is called as stomach. And stomach is highly muscular. There the digestion takes place. So here the stomach secretes 3 types of secretions. One is HCl. HCl, acid is secreted. Why the HCl is needed means the stomach, there is no carbohydrate digestion, but instead of that, protein digestion takes place in the stomach. Not fully, but even then nearly 60% of the protein is digested within the stomach. So the acid will be secreted because many of the protein digesting enzyme will become active only in the presence of acid. So it will activate the protein digesting enzymes. At the same time, it provide acid medium for the activation of this protein digesting enzyme. Then also it will kill the harmful pathogens. If any pathogens entering into, or if any pathogen in the food, if it is present, means this acid can kill the pathogen. And the stomach also will secrete mucus. What is the role of mucus means? It adds more water content to the food and helps in mixing the food, and at the same time it will line the internal lining of the stomach, mucus coating, and it will protect the intestine, the stomach lining, the internal lining of the stomach from the attack of the acid. We can say it will prevent, or it will protect the stomach, internal lining of the stomach from the excoriation of acid. So otherwise, if there is no mucous membrane, means this acid will digest even our protein layer of the body also, because acid can activate protein digesting enzyme. So in the presence of HCl, then mucus, then one more component, that is protein digesting enzyme, which is called as pepsinogen. Okay, so pepsinogen will convert the pepsin into protein into small proteins. Okay, peptones, we can say proteins into peptones. Then the food from there, the partially digested food, by the action of acid, we can call it as chyme. CHYME. This chyme will pass on to the next region, C-shaped region of the intestine. The first part of the intestine, the small intestine, we can call it as duodenum. And into the duodenum, into that only, there are two more glands. They are joining. The largest gland in our body, that is liver, we can say. Liver also helps in digestion. The role of liver means, here we will show you, it will secrete the alkaline juice that is called as bile. And why the bile is essential, even though they do not contain any enzyme, bile helps in providing alkaline medium. So because majority of the protein digesting enzyme which is present in the intestine, they are active at the alkaline medium. So they provide the alkaline medium for the digesting enzymes that is present in the intestine. And then bile also helps in emulsifying the fat and make the emulsified fat easy for the action of the lipase enzyme. Lipase enzyme means lipid digesting enzyme, the fat digesting enzyme. So bile also is required for the digestion. Even though it does not contain any enzyme, bile helps in emulsification of fat. It contains bile, salt and bile pigments. The bile salts only mainly helping in emulsification of the fat. Then we will move on to within the small intestine, the complete digestion will take place. So along with that, pancreas also will secrete certain amount of enzyme. Collectively, we will call it as pancreatic enzyme. Mainly the chymotrypsin, trypsin, then pancreatic lipase, pancreatic amylase. So in the presence of all these enzymes, the complete digestion, even the intestine also secretes intestinal juice, which also helps in. So as a result of all the pancreatic juice, then bile as well as the intestinal juice, the food will be completely converted into, that is, proteins will be converted into amino acids, then carbohydrates will be converted into sugar, that means the glucose, then fats will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol. And the needed nutrients will be, after the digestion, all the needed nutrients will be absorbed through the intestinal lining, and from there it will be taken into the blood. And except one more, that is, in the intestinal lining there are finger-like structures. So that finger-like structures are called as villi. The villi helps in increasing the area of absorption. So inside the villi there is again one more lacteal vessel, lymphatic vessel, that is called as lacteal. So the digested fat, it is not soluble in blood. Instead of that, that will be absorbed with the help of lymphatic vessel that is present in the villi. So the lymph will help in transporting the digested fat. So then the remaining, so all the needed nutrients will be absorbed by the blood. Then it will pass on to the next region, that is called as, that is, the remaining unwanted digestive materials will be absorbed will pass on to the large intestine. And when the food passes through the large intestine, only the reabsorption of water according to the requirement of the body, it will take place. The remaining unwanted digestive material, so the main parts of the large intestine, it is cecum, then colon, and then rectum. So cecum and the small intestine, junction between the small intestine and that means ileum, duodenum, ileum and jejunum. So in that jejunum, duodenum, jejunum and ileum. The ileum and the cecum, that junction, there is a finger-like structure. That structure is called as appendix, vermiform appendix. And inflammation of that one in some cases that can lead to appendicitis. Removal of appendix is called as it is in such cases the appendix has to be removed. Then the next one, when the undigested food material pass on through this region, that is colon region, the excess amount of water also will be reabsorbed into the blood, and the remaining waste materials will be collected in the region. That region is called as rectum. And when it is filled with the fecal matter, it will be thrown out through the anus. That is called as egestion. And the anus is guarded by a sphincter, that anal sphincter. So this is the overall view of digestive system. Now one by one we will, with the help of flowchart, we will discuss the detailed flow of or the process of digestion. So the first part of digestive tract is mouth, that consists of teeth and tongue. So teeth is simplifying the food or breaking the food into small particles. Tongue will help in mixing the saliva as well as rolling the food into small balls. And the salivary glands contain salivary amylase or ptyalin, we can say, which convert the carbohydrates into disaccharides. So here it is intake of the whole food by the process of holozoic nutrition. And here the teeth helps in chewing and grinding, and the tongue helps in rolling of food, tasting of food, and swallowing and pushing down of the food. Then salivary glands will secrete saliva, and it contain main component is lysozyme and mucus. Lysozyme kills the bacteria. Mucus also moistens the food, and in the presence of salivary amylase, starch will be converted into sugar. So the partial digestion takes place. Now when we will move on to the next region, esophagus. The food after mixing with the saliva and it is made into roll, and then it is passing through, and that process is called as peristaltic movement, taking the food from mouth to stomach by peristaltic movement by alternate contraction and expansion of the muscles of the esophagus. Next region is called as stomach. The glands which is in and around the stomach, that is called as gastric glands, which will secrete the gastric juice. It consists of pepsin, HCl and mucus. Pepsin is a protein digesting enzyme. It helps in breaking the protein. Then HCl gives the acidic medium, kills the bacteria, and also activates the pepsin. Then mucus protects the inner lining of the stomach from the attack of the acidic. It will protect from the acid action. Then we will move on to the next region, that is small intestine. Small intestine, again, with the help of intestinal juice, it will convert the carbohydrate into glucose, fats into fatty acids and glycerol with the help of bile also, and proteins into amino acids. So here the complete digestion of food takes place within the small intestine. And small intestine helps in absorption of needed nutrients. That is, inner lining of the small intestine is project out in the form of finger-like structures, that is called as villi. And villi helps in absorption of food into the blood. And we'll move on to the next one, that is small intestine. The components, it receives the secretions from liver. Mainly the liver contains the juice that is called as bile juice. And bile juice helps in emulsification of large fat globules into small simple fat globules. Then again there is another gland, that is pancreas. Pancreas secrete pancreatic juice. And pancreatic juice consists of trypsin and lipase. Trypsin is a protein digesting enzyme, helps in converting proteins into peptones. Lipase will act on the lipids, that means fats, and it will convert into fatty acids and glycerol. So net result, what is the net result? As a result of small intestine, the juice plus pancreatic juice plus bile from the liver, the complete digestion of food takes place. That means proteins will be converted into amino acids, and the starch will be converted into, our carbohydrate will be converted into glucose, then fats into fatty acids and glycerol. And when this, under after the absorption, it will be absorbed into, that is called as assimilation. It will be absorbed into the minute finger-like structures, and then the remaining undigested materials will be passed on to the coiled region, that is called as large intestine. And when it reaches the large intestine, the needed water will be taken out, and then the roughage, that means undigested fibrous content, which cannot be in human beings, means we cannot digest the cellulose. So all the cellulose contents also will be thrown out, and that the rest of the material is removed from the body through the anus. The anus is guarded by or regulated by the opening. That opening is called as anal sphincter. So this is the entire process of digestion in human beings. So with that, we come to an end. Study well. Thank you very much.